But I think kind of what we did, I think, yeah, we can start going to process now. We, the way we've been doing this is, it actually, and just one other thing I want to say, as far as how we've gotten to this point, is we didn't just come up with a lot of these theories on our own. We actually read a lot. We've read a lot of books on story writing and plot and structure and character and viewpoint, which is the Orson Scott Card book.
I've actually mentioned Save the Cat. I've read a lot of books on writing. A lot of them have to do with screenplay, and others have to do with novels. But anything that has to do with, and then there's one on narrative illustration comics. But anything that has to do with story, anything that'll help me improve mine, reading other people's theories, their discoveries, I want to read it. There's a great blog called Story Fanatic that has a lot of really good stuff on it. And I don't necessarily agree with everything that I read in all those sources, but it's nice to see that this is a theory that this person has, and especially on a lot of these books, at least, I can point to other stuff that author has written, see their theories in action, and see how well they're working, at least from my perspective. And the other thing with storytelling is that it's so subjective. One thing that one person may really, really like, another person may not like so much. And so that's another thing that I've kind of decided is, who am I going to try and please? Back to my theory from earlier, you decide who you want to please and make them as happy as possible. I feel like the audience that I have to target is the audience that I'm in.
Me.
Because I know
us. Yeah.
Us. We're part of the same demographic, and that works fairly well, because we know exactly what we like. Oh, dude, this is awesome. And then, of course, you always have a bias. Like, if you wrote something, then you may not see its flaws. I remember going through the art program in college, and I would be drawing this figure drawing, for example, and I'd be like, oh, man, this is turning out really good. This looks great. And then the instructor would come by and look at it, take one look, and take a piece of tracing paper, stick on top of it, and correct it. And he would have this ridiculous number of changes. And then I would go down there. I'd sit down, look at my drawing, look at the model, look at the tracing paper, look at the model, and then just go,
oh.
So no matter how good it looks to us, and that's why we have a test audience where we're having other people read it and give us opinions and feedback. And we've even been posting a lot of questions to these guys, and most of them don't know anything about the story in advance. Some do. My brother's part of the test audience, and he knows the whole story and is reading our execution and critiquing it. And he does have a fairly good understanding of stories. Then other people may or may not. Some do, some don't. But even if they don't have understanding of story, their feedback is still immensely useful, because I can see, the subjective part. Do you like this? Is something not working? Is something not clear? Did we mess up in describing something so you have no clue what we're talking about? If you don't know what we're talking about, we need to go back and fix it. That's why we're writing in advance. So hopefully that'll give us a level of defense against the I wrote this bias.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a term for that too. Maybe I'll learn that someday.
It's probably on TV Tropes or something.
I'll bet it's on TV Tropes. Yeah, everything's on TV Tropes. I spend so many hours on that wiki.
Yeah, see, there's another resource we've used.
I need to give you a word of warning. If you're a writer and you go on TV Tropes, as soon as you open that up in your browser, expect to drain the next 4 hours. Because you'll end up clicking links in every article, and then it just expands out exponentially. And how long you spend on that website is directly proportional to how much memory your computer has, which will dictate how many tabs you can have open.
Yeah, imagine, it's kind of like what happens when you're browsing Wikipedia, but imagine if Wikipedia was only filled with stuff you were interested in. Yeah.
And they had more sane guidelines about what can go in.
Yeah.
I'm sure that every single scene someone could go through and find references on TV tropes to every mechanic we've used. But really, I mean, there's really nothing new anymore. Writing has been around for so long, and for us, it's just a matter of using them in the best way possible.
Yep.
That's kind of lead into this. Our process has kind of been, brainstorm, throw together an outline, redo the outline, brainstorm some more, redo the outline, do some more brainstorming, redo the outline.
Yeah, over and over and over and over again. It's an iterative process.
Yeah, over and over and over again. It's like it's recursive. If you're into programming, you just loop over and over again. Then somehow you break the loop and then start writing the script. Then you realize the outline is stupid, and rinse and repeat.
Yeah, and one thing about the outline, though, basically what that is it's just a sequence of events of what happens in the story, and a lot of times it will just be random notes. And one thing we've learned about outlines is that an outline is only notes for you. If you try to have someone read your outline, they're not going to understand it. And we actually learned that with Shane.
Yeah, Shane tried to read our outline, and he could not make heads or tails of it.
Yeah, and then we're like, okay, maybe.
See, for us, we were both part of the discussions. We wrote this thing, and whenever we put down notes, we both knew exactly what we were thinking when those notes went down. And so they were just notes to remind us of what our thought process was. And even now, I could look at anything in the outline and know exactly what we had in mind. But somebody who wasn't there, which is pretty much the other 7 billion people in the world, aren't going to be able to make heads or tails of the thing.
Yeah. So having an outline isn't going to be good enough for a test audience. I think that was one of the big lessons that we learned, which also explains why, because there in the entertainment industry, there's kind of there's two camps. One camp says that you want to do scripts, and then the other camp says don't bother with scripts, go straight to storyboards. And for us, we were let's totally do a script, because we're still trying to get our drawing skills down. If we tried to storyboard this whole thing, it would have taken way too long for us. And when I thought about it, I was like, actually, because you have a storyboarding team, you have tons of people who are storyboarding this movie, and when you need to get feedback, you just show people the storyboards. They can read it instantly, and there's your instant feedback. So with an outline, we can't do that. And even scripts are a little bit trickier to read, because it's basically a list of instructions on how our layouts are going to kind of work when we get to that point.
Yeah, layouts, dialogue, and there may even be some minor adjustments going from script to final comic.
Yeah.
When we do our layout pass and figure out exactly how all the panels are going to...
Poses and acting for the characters.
Even as it is with the script, on members of the test audience, I've had to go through and tell them, okay, this isn't mentioned in the script, but here's what animal each one of the characters are. You'll get that for free in the comic, because you'll just be able to look at them.
Yeah.
Here's what things look like. Here, there's one of the things that we're doing with the comic is, if we want, we're doing really fine-tuned control of the pacing. If we want you to go through a section really fast, then we have no dialogue or very little dialogue. If we want you to slow down, we'll have a lot of dialogue. But when you're reading the script, that doesn't happen. The opposite happens. When you're reading dialogue, you tend to go through it faster. But then when you have just what in the comic is going to be panels, in the script it's description.
Yeah.
And so then you just hit the brakes, and then you have to read through all that description to get what's going on. So the pacing, as far as how fast you go through it, is actually the opposite in the script of what's going to be in the comic, which has been a challenge for us as well.
Yeah, when we were writing chapter 10, which actually took us quite a lot of time, because there was hardly any dialogue in there. I mean, there was some shouting, but you know.
Yeah. But it's supposed to be very, very fast paced. Most people that read through that, because it's just going to be images, they're going to be scrolling through that quite rapidly, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So, but when you read the script, I mean, it'd take you like half hour to read through that chapter, I would imagine. Whereas with the actual comic, you'll fly through that one in about 5 minutes.
Yeah. So,
but then, you know, chapter 9, it doesn't take that long to read through it. You probably take about half the time to read through it. But then when you're going through the comic, it'd probably take longer, because when you're reading dialogue in a comic, you look at the image, then look at the dialogue, and then you move on to the next panel.
Mm-hmm.
So dialogue actually is slower paced in a comic than it is even in a novel. Because in a novel, you're just going through at a constant pace.
And then as far as, you know, when we actually get our script treatment done, then we can get people to read it and get some really valuable feedback from that. So,
yes.
So that's, So for this, definitely getting the script done as soon as possible so people can read it is, well, and that actually right now, that's our goal. We have a 2-chapter quota per week. And if we keep this up, we should be able to have the entire script. I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, how many pages of script do we think that would be?
Hundreds. It's got to be almost 1,000 pages of script.
Yeah.
Easily.
So, because I think I printed out like the first 6 chapters and ended up being 50 pages or something like that. So, and of course, script is different than actual comic.
Because there's a lot of description in script. So, but there are 52 chapters, and we're trying to get 2 done a week minimum. My kind of unwritten goal has been 3, and we did manage to get 3 last week. I don't think we will this week, but whatever it ends up being, if we can get 2 chapters a week, we can have the whole script done by the end of the year. We want to have the whole thing read by our test audience with feedback that we can go in, make sure everything that is clear, that was supposed to be clear, everything's working, and hopefully they like it. Fingers crossed.
That's going to be the biggest thing. So
that's the part that I'm nervous about, and I hope that they would be honest. Like, those of you who are in the test audience and listening to this podcast, be honest.
We really do not want to have the last few years of our life be a complete waste.
Yes.
No pressure.
Be honest. If it sucks, tell us so that we can fix it.
Because we're probably going to be drawing this thing over the next few years as well.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So for our sake, please be honest. I will not be offended if you think it sucks. I will probably ask you why. And you don't even have to know why. I just have to know. I like it if you know why, because that'll help me fix it. But, just be honest.
Yeah. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. And again, the reason why we're doing this podcast and probably future podcasts, although I don't think we're going to be turning this into a regular thing.
Probably not. We might do some more. I mean, there's a comment system on the blog. I mean, you can give us feedback there if you want. Let us know if you want to see more of these.
Yeah, you can listen to our voices while you jog or work or play StarCraft 2 or something. I don't know. All right, so I think that just about wraps it up. And again, I am Glenn, if you didn't remember my voice.
I'm Adam.
And we'll probably be able to get some of the other people in on this too. So now that we got the Skype recording thing working, so that's pretty neat. So, all right, so here we are, Hackberry Hollow writing team signing off.